Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott, and I'm thrilled to be joining you on this Friday night to talk all things Friday Night SmackDown because it's ended in a big way. We're going to be talking about it and everything else that took place on this big show right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Once again, guys, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. And again, I'm thrilled to be here because we've got some massive news to talk about there. A huge ending with a big shock there to close SmackDown in Berlin. It is massive, and we are going to be breaking down everything that happened on the show as well, and I'm going to be doing that with the help of Lucas in just a moment. But get your comments in, let me know what you thought of the show overall. I think you can probably tell I'm pretty happy with the way it went down at the end, because I'm majorly shocked to say that Drew McIntyre is actually WWE champion. And what I'm going to do now is bring in Lucas to get his reaction to this big news as well. And of course, this is all down to the fact that we saw returning Jacob Fatu. So, Lucas, how do you feel about what we saw at the very end there?
I mean, I'm in shock. I mean, I've done just literally just done a short for my own channel just a second ago, and yeah, I just,
Lucas,
I just don't
sorry,
know.
after button, I cannot hear you. I'm having some technical issues myself, so I'm just going to throw it back to you if you don't mind for just a moment. Let's just make sure Lucas is the main guy here for just a second while I get my audio fixed. But Lucas.
So, just to recap what happened, obviously, at the end of the Three Stages of Hell match, we've obviously had, Drew McIntyre about to escape the cage via the door, and he was stopped by a masked man who revealed himself to be none other than the returning Jacob Fatu. That's right, Jacob Fatu is back. Jacob Fatu and Drew do like a lot of brawling inside the cage, and Cody kind of pulls Jacob off of Drew, and he eats an attack. But what Cody doesn't realize going on behind him is that he's basically gifted the WWE Championship to Drew McIntyre as Drew climbs through the door and is the new undisputed WWE champion in absolute scenes. I mean,
Amazing.
This is mental. This is mental, especially for that championship to change hands on television in in this day and age. Obviously,
Outside of North America as well, I think that's a big thing in itself. And in the period that we're in, we're in Rumble season, but we're not quite at the Rumble. It barely changes hands at the Rumble because of WrestleMania plans being kind of solidified, or at least getting close at the time. So it's crazy to see this happen here. I'm over the moon about it because it has shaken things up, and I thought it was a really enjoyable match overall.
Yeah.
The Jacob Fatu thing, I saw some people online within the last hour or so speculating because there were rumors he was backstage. And I thought it was going to go one way. I thought he was going to come out and he was going to cost Drew McIntyre the match. And we'd all be pretty annoyed about that. But no, they've gone a different route. But like you say, it's unprecedented for them to pull a move like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time the championship changed hands on SmackDown. I think we're going back to pre-COVID. We've got to be. This is bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. This has happened, and I think that this is only going to continue to solidify the fact that the WWE is now fully living up to its moniker of exploiting the world part of their product. They are making these shows bigger each time they come over to anywhere outside North America, and it's now been proven they are not afraid to even change the top championship, well, in all of wrestling. Really, let's be real.
The crazy thing is, look, we know how VPNs are a big thing these days, right? But it's not aired in America yet. As of what we are doing right now, live on our Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, there are millions in the States who have no idea and are avoiding spoilers, trying their best to. This is news that will no doubt seep through and be ruined for some people. The fact that WWE have decided to do something like this on a show that, yeah, it's not taped as such because the rest of the world's getting it live, but, and again, a lot of Americans will watch it, I'm sure, by their own means. But the fact there are so many layers to why this is an interesting decision. Never mind the fact that Drew, I think, I was already annoyed going into this match, Lucas, because I was thinking he won't win and he'll lose a massive amount of credibility. There's only so many times you can kind of tease us with a certain wrestler. And that's not saying if, babyface or heel or anything like that, but anyone, and, we've seen it over the years so many times. Don't get me wrong, Drew's held a fair few top spots himself over the years, but it felt like he would maybe start to lose credibility. But I mean, that alone, the Drew McIntyre factor here is, I think, an hour's podcast. Let alone again all these kind of things that come with it as well. Let's get to a few of these comments here. Aiden's in the house. Always good to see you. And as predicted, Aiden is very happy with the fact that Drew McIntyre walks away as.
He's been wanting that for quite some time, hasn't he? I think
exactly that. WWE champion here. Aiden says lost his mind that he and his mum was screaming when Drew McIntyre picked up the victory. Actually wants to cry, and he's really glad that, of course, Scotland has a world champion again. Look, I'm pleased for you, mate. I'm really pleased with Drew McIntyre and all Drew McIntyre fans, all wrestling fans, because I think this really does shake things up, just within the WWE as a whole. We'll get to the rest of SmackDown because it was an interesting show on its own. But this decision, Lucas, is massive. Where do you think we go with Drew McIntyre being champion? A tournament that starts next week.
The beautiful thing about this is now we don't know. And I think that's actually good for us, because there have been a lot of reports recently with regards to them wanting to apparently set up a match between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And now, while that still could happen, they will have to go the long way round, I guess, about doing that. They wanted to now. There's also now a story where Cody could win the Rumble. There's also now a story where, there's several options here, though. And obviously they announced some stuff for next week's SmackDown, which I think we have to mention. It now links into this match.
Yep.
They announced 4 matches that will take place next week on SmackDown, with the 4 winners going on to the Saturday Night's main event, which is in Canada, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, that makes that show interesting even more so now. I mean, to go up against face Cody would have been interesting, whoever won it, but to go up and face Drew, and where does that leave Cody? And as you say, Roman Reigns and all that kind of stuff, and just to kind of those matches that have been made, they were kind of sprinkled through the show. As far as I feel it was really weird, Lucas, that through the show so many people said I want to be in the WWE title picture, and I thought this has got to be going somewhere, including Ilya Dragunov, who went to speak to Nick Aldis after turning down the option of a US Open Challenge opportunity. He said he had bigger well, he didn't say he had bigger fish to fry, but that's what he was alluding to. But yeah, he's going to face off against Sami Zayn, Damian Priest versus Solo Sikoa, Matt Cardona versus Trick Williams, and Miz versus Orton. So there's quite a few kind of big heavy hitters in there, and an interesting mix of names and an interesting set of matchups as well. I mean, out of those 8 names, who do you think is most likely to do it? I think obviously Cody not being champ means it leans towards the baby faces now. The one that jumps out to me the most is probably Sami or Orton. But at the same time, I mean, many of us have believed that Sami Zayn was winning the Royal Rumble. I mean, that could be where we go with it. Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble. Whoever wins this doesn't win at the Royal Rumble, and Sami wins the Rumble itself and then faces Drew, who's still got it at WrestleMania. I mean, I don't really see Drew holding it that long, but I'd love it to be the case. But going by these 8 people in this tournament, mate, where do you see it going at the moment?
Yeah, I think they're going to go with Sami Zayn winning the tournament, I think.
Okay, so not the Rumble.
Yeah, I think they do that. Because they've already had, saying that, they had him face for the title at the Chamber in his hometown. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is a very popular destination for Sami Zayn, for wrestling fans. But I guess in a nice way, you are just setting up like the first person to lose to Drew. And So you got to pick basically between are you going to go with newness or someone like a Trick Williams or even returnedness, I guess, of like Matt Cardona. Probably not wise to kind of kill them right out of the gates, so to speak. Or do you go for like the experience, someone like a Randy Orton, always a solid hand. Has been in this situation many times before. So yeah, for me, between Randy and Sammy, really. I mean, I guess before obviously Cody lost, I was thinking, oh, are they going to do Trick? Are they going to jump Trick right up to, facing Cody? First, but it just seemed that he's in that process of making enemies on SmackDown. So he may have a long list of people who want to get their hands on him, which I'm not complaining about because I think more Trick Williams on the TV is always a good thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's quite at the level of being challenging for the championship just yet. But yeah, I think between Randy and Sam, but yeah, I'm genuinely now like really just excited again. I think they need to do more things like this. I think it's hard to compare it to Raw, but we are going to have to because obviously it's existing in the same week. And look, I actually did a short match on why I said I don't know. I didn't think Raw was that bad personally, but I can get why people didn't like it. I can get that, but I think it is definitely the case that SmackDown was the much better show this week.
Oh yeah, by far. I mean, it's not just the ending. I think it was an enjoyable show overall.
Yes, the pacing I mentioned to you earlier, so the pacing felt much better today. Obviously, again, guys, if you are joining, if you're watching this somehow in the States or whatever, just bear on, we've already seen the show. I know you guys got to wait a few hours, but we are talking about things that are on it. So if you are joining, don't want to hear spoilers, potentially, maybe revisit us after you've watched it, whichever territory you're from. But we're just so gassed that we've got a new WWE champion coming out of SmackDown. It's obviously the UK. Obviously, he's one of us for now. He's British when he has won.
Yeah.
But he'll be
Aiden in the comments wrote like that. He'll want the Scottish tag, of course, more than the British one. But look, we'll claim him as best we can. He says Drew versus Damien. Of course, that is a feud we saw last year. And next Friday, of course, they're in London, so he's gonna be somewhat on home turf. Of course, he's Scottish, not English, but yeah, he's still the capital of Great Britain. So it's going to be a big thing from there. Different kind of emotions here from is it Alex? Yeah, Alex. WWE is dead. No Roman versus Cody for a main event. Are you saying you don't want, or you did want Roman versus? I got to be honest with you, Alex. I really don't want Cody versus Roman again. Aiden says Drew versus Mello or Trick. I mean, this is the thing, Lucas. It really does freshen things up. We're getting completely different names here, up here. Aiden says no, Miz as well. Triple H just burning money. So Alex, yes, doesn't seem to be a fan of what's going on here as well. Drew to hold on to Mania, says Aiden. Sorry, Lucas, what was that?
Alex, yeah. What? Let us know. What is it you wasn't unhappy with? Seems to have people quite a lot of stuff, but yeah, maybe let us know. But Drew, hold on till Mania. This is the thing, though, Aiden, back to that comment. So, yeah, Alexa, this is the best decision. Oh, he was trying to plan to Alex from before.
Yeah, well, here we go. Alex has said, I'm from America. American fans hate this decision on X right now. I'm shocked to hear that. I mean, I'm not on X, obviously, we're live at the moment, but I appreciate you filling in, Alex, and letting us know your kind of perspective on things. But I'm shocked. I saw people talking about the possibility of Drew not winning and Jacob kind of costing him, and that sending fans into a negative spiral. So I'd imagine, I mean, look, our feeds, this is the thing about social media and the way the algorithm works, they're not exactly the same, right? So you get pumped things that you tend to interact with. So maybe I interact with more accounts that would be kind of more pro Drew. Because I got a feeling when I log on, it's going to be a lot of positives about what we've seen here today. So it's interesting that Alex has seen it from a different perspective.
Question, Alex, are people maybe not liking the result a bit more because it's happened in a territory outside of North America, / you can't also watch the show live? I get a feeling that factors in somewhat to the decision. Because take something that happened recently.
I do think for Americans, I do think there will be Americans that are annoyed that this has happened, because more so, and maybe not so much the result, but the way it's gone down. I mean, Alex says here that he used a VPN to watch it live. So Alex is one of the lucky ones managed to do that. Watch it on Netflix, of course. Julie says, I don't agree. They need to put it on Roman. Yeah, look, I don't want a belt anywhere near Roman. I think Roman's a big enough star that doesn't need it anymore. We spent so long having Roman at the top of the card with the championship as well. So I'm too happy. I've just been through too much heartbreak. Aiden's
I
feeling
know,
good.
yeah.
Aiden's feeling not too happy about us calling Drew British there. He wants to stick to the Scottish tag, of course.
Well, he'll be Scottish again when he loses.
Yeah, there we go. The
So
old Andy Murray, eh?
any snow up there, by the way, Aiden? I know it's been snowy up north and stuff. Down south it's been raining, but yeah, I mean, obviously, look. Thanks for your comments, of course, guys, as always. You know, I know we've been away for a little bit, haven't we? Scott and I. Scott's had obviously a very busy got a couple of months, really.
Yes, yes. I should probably say it. See, I've never really mentioned it on the camera yet, but I've had a baby, everyone. Well, I haven't. My wife has. I played a part, and I'm working hard at the moment as well. But yeah, we've got big news. So yeah, apologies that we haven't been around as much, but and I might be tired in streams going forward, but we'll try our best to kind of commit, especially with Rumble season coming up, Lucas. There's a lot to dig
Well,
into.
I guess the good thing is about all these international shows is that there'll be lots of early nights, I guess, for yourself, which is much
It's not too bad, yeah. And then by the time it does go back to the late, I mean, I might be up busy changing nappies anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So
So,
we just have to deal with it. Because yeah, the Rumble is in Saudi Arabia, which obviously is a great thing for us, for content wise, as it is on at a time which we love, which pretty much I think it's pretty much after work time over here in the UK, 5
yeah,
p.m. 6 p.m. I'm sure. Sorry, Alex in the chat. I'm sure you're not gonna like obviously when it's on in your country. I know it's on like about midday, isn't it? Odd,
yeah. I mean, no,
which
it's
doesn't go
not
down well with the
weekend,
Americans.
it's still a weekend, so it's not like it's a Monday where people are at work. You know what I mean? So, but I guess look, people have their routines for how they watch WWE and stuff
Mm.
like that as well. Aiden's given us a weather update. Love it. He says plenty of snow up there in Scotland. Also offers his congratulations to me and again the announcement there that myself and my wife have had a little baby boy. So yeah, appreciate that. We will be streaming the Rumble live. Look, I've been toying around with the idea, Aiden. I got to be honest with you, mate. Because of that recent, I'm not sure how available with it I'm going to be, but we'll do content around the Rumble for sure. It feels like a great opportunity to do even more because again, it is at a reasonable time for us, as Lucas alluded to there. If we don't do more than usual, we'll definitely do our best to do as much as we usually would do at least. So keep your eyes peeled and kind of focused on this channel again. We appreciate all of you that join us. People like Aiden, of course, hopping in pretty much nearly every stream we do. And then also great to see people like Alex hopping in as well for the first time there. So yeah, appreciate all the support and all the comments as well. Alex, speaking of which, says Drew is not a WrestleMania main event level star to American
Wow.
fans.
Okay.
We personally still think the story with Cody and Roman and the final boss is unfinished. So I get where you're coming from there. The final boss stuff, of course, is still a big story in itself, but it's one that doesn't really need a title for me. Interested to hear your view about, Drew McIntyre. I've seen a lot of Americans do seem to like Drew. But I do think his appeal is certainly more European heavy. I mean, I think the fact that they pulled the trigger in Europe is kind of a nod to that as well. Really interesting reaction from the German fans for Cody Rhodes. I mean, to be honest, I've seen Americans slightly turn on Cody the last few months anyway. But yeah, it was definitely going to happen when they went overseas. But yeah, some interesting points there from Alex. Aiden also says, 7 p.m. on Netflix for the Rumble for us here in the UK as well. And he's got the Scottish flag draped on him at the moment as well. Aiden, again, congratulations to you and your Scottish brethren. Yeah, Lucas.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, interesting comment, Aiden, there. I think, obviously, maybe Drew is a bit more kind of in our thoughts, obviously, as he's one of ours. And also, I guess, something which Drew has going against him, against the American fans, the fact that he hasn't been their champion, like, in front of live fans, before. And so, and I think maybe this story arc maybe just doesn't resonate as much to them as it does to us.
Really?
It's also interesting, like, with this final boss thing. So, Aiden, right? Like, no, sorry,
It was Alex. Alex, yeah.
at what point do we just let it go? Do you know what I mean? Like, at what point do we, as a collective fan base, just decide that look, it's just not happening? Because the Rock was the villain going into WrestleMania 40, did his role perfectly, in my opinion. They kind of capped that all off. They then teased a match between the Rock and Cody, when that weird segment where the Rock gave him that weird belt that he was coming out of for a little bit, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, we have a match. That didn't happen. And then they did this segment at Chamber last year, which, you know, has been talked about to death. Also, so the promo, leading into the Chamber segment, so both those things together, which again been talked about to death, and they did the turn, and nothing came of it. Nothing came of it. You know, he didn't sell his soul. You know, we got told to F off, and then Cena turned heel, and that led to nothing at WrestleMania. And we're then through to SummerSlam, where the rematch happened, nothing happens. We're then through to Cena's last match, where it's, you know, everyone, well, there was a lot of people wanted to be Edge, and there were equally a lot of people wanted to be The Rock. Still no Dwayne The Rock Johnson showing up. And as of recent time, it seems that he's very much focused on his Hollywood career, or he's nominated for a Golden Globe, potentially being for an Oscar down the line. You know, at what point do you just give it up? He's allegedly turned down being a part of WrestleMania next year in Saudi. You know, at what point do we just go, he's not doing it? Like, this final boss thing isn't happening. The last time he was on television, on Raw, don't forget, he turned babyface again. He started hugging Cody Rhodes and acted like nothing happened.
True.
You know,
And
what point do we just go, look, the final boss doesn't exist? The final boss maybe was for WrestleMania 40 only, and that was that.
yeah, I mean, there's another comment here as well from Aiden that says the final boss just dragged on for too long, which I agree. I mean, dragged on for too long in the sense that we never got closure, and we always felt like every month something was going to happen. But as you say, Lucas, it could just be over now anyway.
Also,
But at the same time, it could
when
just
he
pop up
came out,
again.
he did the four fingers thing, what he did.
Yeah.
But
Nobody knows, you know. Like the Cena thing's an interesting thing, and I think we will talk about that in more in depth in the future because the final year was mad when you kind of think about it. But I think the Rock they can bring back and make it seem like it was something else or become something. And you got to remember as well, there was this strange little link between Drew McIntyre and The Rock a few months back as well, about a year back even, where people thought Drew McIntyre might be the one that, you know, becomes the, I guess, new corporate champion, if you will, instead of Cody when it ended up being John Cena. So those rumors go back about a year now anyway. So there's a chance that he hops back in, ironically, into this very storyline. But look, it could go in so many different directions as well. Alex says, shout out to the MFTs and the Wyatts. They met my expectations. Let's get into that match in just a moment, actually, because again, there's a lot of stories coming out of SmackDown, Lucas. It's not just the world title. You wouldn't know it because we spent 20 odd minutes talking about the world title because it was such big news anyway, and I'm sure we'll go back to it before we wrap up once more. Cody should go to Raw, says Aiden. Yeah, it's always good to freshen things up. And look, when they do drafts, you've got that opportunity as well. I think Cody being a big name on Raw, Netflix does kind of make sense. But at the same time, there's probably still a few more things now that he's not got the title for him to do on SmackDown as well. But let's get into SmackDown as a show overall. It started out with Randy Orton. Of course, as you get with a lot of these European shows and international shows even, they love to sing the songs. They sang Randy Orton's voices very, very loud indeed. Chat. Trick Williams came out and did a pretty good promo. I felt nice little back and forth between him and Orton. As you said, Lucas, he's kind of picking enemies week by week, it seems now at the moment. But I'm really enjoying seeing him on the main roster. He gets attacked by Randy Orton, and The Miz then comes and attacks Randy Orton. Of course, this leads to this WWE Championship tournament we mentioned earlier on. But yeah, nice opening segment. I really enjoyed seeing Trick and Randy interact. So I'm assuming you felt the same way.
Yeah, I've been a big Trick fan. Obviously, we mentioned on the channel a couple of times. I felt that he was ready. I think about a year ago or so. I think I said on here that I just thought he was ready straight away, and it feels good that he's able to. It felt really like kind of. And I'm not like connected to them, but it just feels a bit like it felt really like heartwarming to hear his music and hear people like sing along and make the sing along, you know, because it wasn't too long ago when, you know, we had Karrion Kross coming out, you know, wearing things we can't say probably on YouTube. You know, obviously, you know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, that was the state of an NXT call up.
That was the thing, and now you've got the fact that Trick is literally rubbing shoulders with the main eventers. I liked how this segment was done. You know, like I think Randy Orton, for all things about him, he's not always the most engaging talker outside of basically just saying, RKO and
the three deadliest letters and all.
Yeah, and like just and warming up the crowd. Like he's good at that kind of stuff. But really, like in 2026, like we don't really want to be going to having him have 10, 15-minute monologues to start the show again. So I thought this is all like a nice way of doing things, and it's something they do quite often on NXT actually. Where they kind of do segments that kind of flow into each other quite nicely. So you had Randy Orton come out, like little entrance, gets his pop, starts his promo, Trick comes out for interruption. Then there's the attack on Trick, leading into the Miz coming in attack, the RKO, as Randy goes up the entrance, Ray Phoenix is making his entrance, and then we're into the first match. So there's no need to go backstage.
As well, then that kind of passing over, he's like,
like,
do me a favor, kick his ass or something like that, So
I think, I just think things like this are needed, because it is a TV show. I think forget it's a TV show, and it's an entertainment product. We need something to be going on to kind of keep engaged. I think this kind of stuff is very good. They did it later on in the episode too. It was very like ring centric, the episode. But in terms of the opening segment, I thought that was done really well. And I guess we made a link it into the opening match because it kind of followed. The opening match was obviously Ray Phoenix taking on Trick Williams, and you forget how good Ray Phoenix is. Like I think just because obviously he's known for being a tag team competitor with his brother Penta, which they still haven't done yet, have they? Because Penta was injured, wasn't he, before the Mexican match a couple weeks ago that was scheduled. But yeah, Ray Phoenix is incredible. Like it's really, really, truly very good.
This is a really risky match because Ray Phoenix is still new in WWE and Trick has only just come up to the main roster, and I was like, this kind of feels like a lose-lose as far as like relation goes, but a win-win as far as fans go because like the match itself is going to be entertaining as it was, but strange pairing for me this early on. It was a strange pairing for me to put these two together this early on.
Yeah, I mean, in no special way, this is where usually you would use someone like an R-Truth or but I get that they wanted to have a competitive match to start off the show, and I think that something they do in Europe quite often is lean more into the wrestling side of things, the match side of things, and so that's why I think we got this match in the first place. I think if this was in America, we would have got a different kind of thing. But yeah, looking at obviously what happened bell to bell, I thought it was very, very good. We was blessed to obviously watching it live and maybe to see the full match because you don't realize how much of the match gets cut off and lost, by these commercials. And it usually is the villain's offense. And obviously in this case, it's Trick Williams. And I want to see his offense. So, yeah, I want to see his offense and what he does. So it was interesting seeing that. Obviously, they had a finish which I think protected both people. Obviously, Trick, he went for the bookend towards the end of the match of the catching Ray Phoenix on the top rope. Ray first reversed it into a pin of his own, and then that pin was countered with the extra help of the tights. I think that's fine. I think we've now got a reason why Ray Phoenix lost. It was a competitive match as well, where he got more than enough of his stuff in. And Trick Williams, obviously, if they want to do this again, I know they get criticised for 50-50 booking, but this would be one which would actually make sense. Because I think Trick's doing that thing where he's making a lot of enemies. There's no need for him to have a winning streak, really. Like he's already quite established there. Not saying he's to lose every single week. I'm saying they do revisit this Ray Phoenix match again in the future.
You're right. He seems to be able to kind of cleanly move on to the next babyface very quickly and smoothly. There is a risk. If if he keeps losing, then that would be a problem. Obviously, he didn't here anyway. But eventually, he's going to need a sole focus and a feud, and it could become Ray Phoenix. We could see a rematch maybe a week or so away from here. But I think the way they did it at the end was quite wise.
My early prediction for this is that I think he's going to be the one to beat Carmelo Hayes, and I think he's going to close down the Open Challenge. I think that might be the end goal. Because the Open Challenge for a long time, and you need a villain champion to basically be like, well, no, I'm not going to do it. And Trick's the one to do that with. I think
it can't go forever. No, I really like that idea actually. And of course, they've got tons of history together as well, so that'll be nice little feud. Be a great way. I mean, Carmelo himself, we'll touch on him in a little bit, but
I wouldn't be surprised actually. Can I be bolder?
Go on.
So if that happens, then Obafemi's debut is beating Trick Williams.
For the title as well?
Yeah.
Oh, so Trick's taking it off of Carmelo, stops the US Open Challenge, Obafemi debuts, beats Trick Williams. I mean, that could be a WrestleMania match in itself. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about Obafemi maybe winning the Royal Rumble. I could do a whole
pod about Oba and about when.
Yeah, I know you could.
No, but the thing is, though, from the Saturday Night main event, though, what I like about that is everyone's now seeing it, though. Everyone's now seeing it. You know, that this guy is, you know, he's the future main eventer of this company if they treat it right. If they build this guy right, there's no reason why this guy is. I know, obviously, Paul Heyman goes on about Bron Breakker main eventing like WrestleMania for like 10 years. It's like, well, Obafemi might be the one to like co-main event with him. Like, you know, you got like one night two. It's like you got Oba's match, you got Bron's match. Do you know what I mean? That's the level we're talking that Oba can.
Could be the future that we get. Yeah, really good.
You know, there's big things that can come from this. Now we saw another tease for Oba tonight. Actually, another promo. And it just seemed like he is going to SmackDown over Raw. But yeah, look, I thought the opening match, it was solid. Like bell to bell, and it's the right kind of result that you need, you know, going forward. What was next? Was it the women's US title?
Kind of promo from Julia about Alexa Bliss because they faced off later. There was a few WrestleMania promos. Ambulance match recap. Damian Priest was interviewed when he said he wants a title shot on Cody, which again people kept mentioning the World WWE title, and we find out why later on. He's interrupted by Drew, who you know that Damian kind of acknowledges that Drew could win and what it would mean as far as them two going at it once again. And this is where Drew shows off that he's got Dusty's watch, of course. Through playing mind games again with Cody Rhodes. The next kind of main segment we see after this is a little while later as well. To do a lot more of this kind of feeding into, you know, this person and then this person and this person. Alexa Bliss is on the phone to Charlotte Flair. Nia and Lash approach her. Alexa tells Lash to drop Nia before she brings it down, and Nia kind of denies that as being a possibility. Then we actually do get Alexa's match versus Julia. Of course, Alexa is going up against the new, again, second time though, US champion in Julia. An interesting note here is, again, it really kind of adds to different people's perspective on things. I saw people getting really annoyed at what that fan did. And I remember when I don't know if you noticed this, Lucas, but I was watching it, I was like, oh, that was a bit weird. They kind of pushed into Julia a bit there. Basically, a fan basically booped Julia on the face or nose with a Lily doll. And I was like, oh, that was a bit weird. But then I remembered when Alexa's music hit, oh, wait, she's facing... Yeah, that was an Alexa fan. Of course it was. I saw some people acting online as if, like, you know, some ridiculous tweet being like, oh, you know, get them ejected or something like that, as if they punched her, which wasn't the case. But I just thought it was kind of playful stuff. And I think Julia was the same. I think she shoved the doll back in the fan's face or something like that. So not too bad. But yeah, that was the match we got up next. Julia versus Alexa. Alexa didn't pick up the win or the title, and that's because Lash Legend cost Alexa. Sorry, Alexa didn't pick it up. Don't know if I did say that. And Nia, of course, then got involved and helped with the attack as well. They both took out Alexa Bliss, who was on her own, apparently due to a illness for Charlotte Flair. Not on the legit reason why she weren't there, but the comments play into the fact that Charlotte and Alexa, you know, could be splitting or something like that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of them trying to plant seed between Charlotte and Alexa. I think, you know, Charlotte recently, obviously, she went on a podcast and she kind of said that, you know, about them not really having much creative plans for her after WrestleMania last year, and that this tag team kind of reignited her. And I think it definitely, from a fan base perspective, it's done wonders. You know, if you look at the reception she got, you know, we're just under a year now from that segment on SmackDown between Tiffany and Charlotte. You know, with the, you know, mentioning the husbands and Ludwig and all that kind of stuff. And I think we need to remember the reception.
Careers, but their personal lives, you know, completely change, you know. So mad what you can do.
Yeah. But you know, we're only barely a year from that segment airing, and that build to WrestleMania was so weird, and the crowd's reception of Charlotte Flair was so negative, and now it's finally positive again. I just think the minute you split that tag team, you're only going to go back to that kind of reaction again, which you don't want. Just keep them together. You know, we spoke for years on here about how obviously it does just seem that they want to gut the women's tag division. Every single time they get any progress, you know, one step forward, they just gut it. I mean, I saw before I actually got on here, I saw a clip of I think it was Ring of Honor on Facebook. Obviously, Lacey Lane, you know, formerly former tag team champion actually for the women in WWE. You know, she's now aligned with Leo Rush, and I just kept thinking, you know, that's another tag team they just completely just let go for the women. You know, we decided, okay, they're going to get over, they're good, and they're actually two girls when we're in a tag team. It's like, oh no, we're going to get rid of them, like, because that's what they do for this division. So yeah, just keep them together. Obviously, it's most likely to set up Nia Jax and Last Legend against Charlotte and Alexa, which that's cool. I have a feeling that may go down on the go home show. If not the Rumble, maybe of Sandlight's main event potentially. As then I guess they have the title match on either the Rumble or the main event thing itself.
Yeah.
Obviously, the new champions are Rio. They won the championship on Raw. A lot of titles changing hands, haven't they? I think the last couple of
So much, yeah. So I mean, Raw itself, I'm with you. I quite enjoyed Raw actually, but it was never going to be like last year's Raw. But I still think it was really good, like the one on Netflix at the debut. I still thought it was a really good show. And I was shocked how many title changes happened there. And that started to make me feel, and again, we'll touch on it more later on. But Drew, I was like, "Hey, Drew, what that is it?" You know, but it's crazy, like you say. There's a lot of changes at the moment, and a lot of them changed only recently as well. You know, Julie's only just won that title back herself from was it Chelsea Green she beat? Yeah, Chelsea Green. Of course, I mean, to be fair, that leads into the next segment because Chelsea Green is backstage talking to Nick Aldis as well. And this is because he's trying to interrupt his nice chat with Jordan Grace, who's now been announced as a member of the SmackDown roster as well. So a lot of movement as far as kind of personnel from NXT coming onto either Raw or SmackDown at the moment. As I say, Chelsea Green butts in. Fans are really behind Chelsea Green. You know, when you see someone on screen, you get that first kind of roar from the audience. It was nice to see them give appreciation to Chelsea Green there as well. Just set up a match between Alba Fire and Jordan Grace later on. It also did, again, another one of those little transitions. A little while after that, we saw Kit Wilson angry, also trying to go see Nick Aldis. And he's annoyed about Matt Cardona, who then gets interviewed by Byron Saxton, who then sees Cody Rhodes and then hints at a little match between them. And fans actually boo when they see Cody Rhodes at this point, Lucas, and they start singing for Drew McIntyre. So those fans would be singing much, much louder later on in the night. Then we get a history of 3 stages of hell being shown. Again, we'll touch on that match a little bit later on. But again, a lot of this is showing a seed for this announcement that comes later from Nick Aldis about the WWE Championship #1 contendership as well. We saw in the comments earlier on, Alex giving appreciation to the Wyatts versus the MFTs. I thought it was a good match. It was quite explosive from the get-go. Rowan looked really strong. Talatonga came in and did that nice little face-off between the two of them, which I thought was quite cool. Uncle Howdy got in a lot of kind of screen time as well, you know, as far as in the ring looking pretty decent. He gets distracted, though, by Solar, who's got the lantern, and Tamatonga would pick up the victory with the cutthroat elbow. Now, for me, I actually thought this match was probably a little bit too short. I know you said earlier on praise, you know, for WWE here with their time in the SmackDown. My only kind of criticism was that I felt if anything could have been switched, this was a bit too short. And later on, I thought the US title match was a little bit too long, even though I enjoyed it. We'll get there in a sec. But this shows me the length of the match and also the ending of the match that this feud is not over because Solo Sikoa has stolen the lantern.
Yeah, I think this is all kind of stuff they used to do very, very well back in the day, you know, and it's kind of going back to that original storytelling that they were so good at for a long, long time. And hopefully this feud, this feud has lots of different things that can be done with it, you know, because you've got obviously the individual elements of it. The only thing that's annoying me about it, I wish there was a female on the side of the MFTs, because then Nikki Cross could also play a part in this. At the moment, she's kind of unable to as much as we'd like. They've done bits with her, don't be wrong. But
yeah, she was the kind of de facto leader when Howdy couldn't make it that time, weren't she?
Yeah. It'd be nice. It would just be nice to see a bit more of her. But you know, I guess she's happy just being what she's doing. This is a feud which it seems like it's destined to get a rematch for the tag team championships, as obviously the last one did end in a no contest, and now obviously MFTs have the upper hand, winning this contest. And it all started obviously after the Survivor Series tag on SmackDown, which is a crazy sentence to say. The Survivor Series tag happened on SmackDown the day before War Games. Also Survivor Series, but anyway, that's November's complaint for me. But but it's been going on, quite a number of weeks, and obviously built up with video packages, some great promo work from both teams. And I think the Wyatt Six's entrance is so good. It's so good.
Even the presentation of the MFTs, I love the fact they've got that name now. I love the fact that they've got paint and Solo doesn't. I think the presentation, the only one that's a bit odd is JC Mateo really kind of just seeming like another guy in that stable now.
Yeah.
He's lost his personality in some, well, I say in some sense.
I wish they just kept calling him Jeff Cobb. I just don't know why they changed the name.
Yeah.
One of those really bonkers ones as well. Like, it just, I guess you could say that Jeff Cobb is in there in the JC, but I don't know. It's just, it just
He's
isn't.
definitely lost his. It doesn't. When he first came in, it felt like he was going to be a big deal within that stable, and now he's just one of the many pieces of that stable. And that happens. There's always a risk with stables. Don't get me wrong, but the rest of them at least have that kind of family tie. He's just kind of on the edge a little bit. But look, other than that, I like the stable. I like the presentation of it, and I think this was a great example of that. Like, it is a shame to say that the Survivor Series match wasn't on Survivor Series, but this is an example of, like, this could have been the War Games match. We thought months back that this could have been going that way. It didn't, but it just shows the strength of the roster and the strength of the storytelling that they do have available to them.
Yeah, and I just think and I hope that they kind of. I know they can't do it all the time. I get that, but I do hope that they do utilize some of those matches more for organic feuds with actual teams and stables, versus just we're gonna have CM Punk and Super Friends team again.
Yeah.
But that again, this might be for later on down the line. But there's also other stuff where this comes into fruition too. Like throughout the year. When they do bigger matches and they just do main event talents, use your other guys. And obviously SmackDown in 3 hours. Obviously, this is that challenge they're going to have every week because they're going to have to use a lot of mid-card talent. Somebody brushed past there. Someone was a bit annoyed didn't get an entrance after, obviously, last week. Kit Wilson went kind of viral with this. It's a brilliant entrance.
It's great.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I just wish, that he got an entrance this week. I think it could have been a good, even if it was just like to get interrupted, like the promo segment he did with Nick, maybe it could have been him
but
coming out
Lucas,
on stage doing it.
Let's not forget, where is SmackDown next week?
It is in London.
So there is opportunity there for us, Lucas, for a nice. I'm sure if they don't do it there, they don't give him his entrance there, it'd be crazy. I mean, even when it's Pretty Deadly, they'd come over the past few years. They always gave Pretty Deadly a kind of. I think they had a few tag title matches on some of the London shows as well.
They had a tag title match last year, didn't they?
Yeah, so it'd be great to see him. And again, he's as you say, massively over. I mean, the big story from that segment last week was the return of Matt Cardona, but Kit Wilson was like huge. People loved it, So I'm really happy for him. I was worried when Elton Prince injured, obviously for his own health as well, but also for what it might be for Kit. I thought Kit might just kind of slip through the cracks, but that's certainly not the case.
Yeah, obviously, Elton Prince did share today on social media on Instagram that obviously he's just had neck surgery, and obviously as someone who. Someone who's known Elton personally. I just want to say, obviously, wishing you a speedy recovery. Hope that you're back in the ring very, very soon. I know this is literally what you want to do since you you had braces in your teeth and you was training in Tilbury. Big shout out to Elton Prince. I hope that he does. He gets back soon and maybe joins Kit. Maybe he doesn't join Kit. Depending on how things go with this new gimmick and stuff. Because it does seem that this is a gimmick that it makes sense now. This obviously with the surgery that Lewis that Elton Prince has had. Sorry, it is sadly going to be like a long-term recovery. He's just had the surgery. It's neck fusion surgery. This is a serious thing. So it just seems like they are setting up Kit for a long-term run as this. So we've seen previously with when Eric of Viking Raiders got injured and then they had Ivar go to NXT and do bits and pieces on singles, but he kind of kept the same gimmick. He was still the Viking.
Yeah.
And then obviously Eric came back and they teamed and they won the tag belts again. But it just seemed like they're completely going a different direction with Kit. And it'd be interesting how this goes. And I do a thing that this becomes a bit like a Fandango situation with that song. You remember when everyone was fandangoing and there'd be a Kit Wilson dance. It's all in at the moment because people want again that the three words that comprise make up the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. entertainment, that final one, is something which we're often kind of lacking, when it comes to things, and more specifically like organic entertainment. We're always kind of told things are entertaining, or like said, they do the whole, there's like a celebrity here that you meant to like, and that's entertaining.
Yeah.
If we don't like the celebrity or don't know them, like, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's all very like stage, isn't it? A lot of the entertainment stuff they do. So when they do stuff like this, where it's just like, this is just someone like we can just get behind, like we want to just like his entrance and comment it on social media and stuff. Like, I think they've got to run with it. I'm interesting, obviously, where they go. With that, potentially Kit does answer the open challenge in a few weeks, potentially, for the US title. That could be a good thing to do. But yeah, if not, I think it's just they need to obviously develop that. Obviously tonight, in my opinion, has set like the bar quite high with SmackDown going forwards. I've made lots of comments about SmackDown last year, where I did feel, at one point it was not watchable. It was it was not very good for a long time, and Raw really, in my opinion, forged ahead. But now I think this has set the kind of bar of like, this is how good an episode of SmackDown needs to be. Don't get me wrong, there's still things I would change, still things I'd like to see a bit more of, like on the product. But I think overall, like, for watching it, or if you're there live, I think it was a good show and something which needs to do more of. But obviously they won't have the benefit, obviously, every week being able to have like a match like Cody and Drew. What was it, like 40 minutes all in? No,
it was a PLE, mate. That was PLE.
Yeah, it was like a
the
it
three
felt like
stages of hell match. Like, that's crazy on its own.
But
Like, we don't get many of those.
It did feel like that, and I mean, maybe I remember years ago when there's that rumor going around about how they want to turn the third hour Raw into like, like Raw Dark, or they experimented with different things, didn't they, for a little bit? Nothing really came of it. But maybe they need to do something like that, like where the last hour of SmackDown is just something different. Yes, because it did feel like a PLE, didn't it? That last
that
hour.
last hour, and it was promoted as ad free as well. I assume that's going to be the case when it airs in the US on USA. They mentioned it earlier in the show. It was different. Like, that match was, I mean, it was a world title match for SmackDown #1, and it was a big twist at the end. But yeah, to have that kind of stipulation and whatever else, I think it really did set it apart from a regular SmackDown. Obviously, the presentation being from Europe as well was a big part of that. Just going to get to a few of these comments here, Lucas, and then we'll
of course.
cycle back around to some of the big stories, some more of the big stories, that came out of SmackDown. One of the big stories, Kieran thinks he's stuffed it. Thinks he knows that everyone's going to return because he's noticed a little sneaky thing online on SmackDown in Newcastle on the 15th, not far. Search it up and see your favorite superstar, Seth Rollins, was on there. If I'm honest, Kieran, I think that's a kind of a thing that slipped through the cracks. And if he's there, it'd be massive, but I can't see it happen. Becky Lynch is going to be there, and Kieran is going to see Becky. Kieran, hope you have a great time. CM Punk advertised for being in Newcastle as well. Aiden hopped out for a bit, but he's come back, Lucas, and now he's got 2 flags and a Scotland scarf and his Scotland stuff. Needless to say, Aiden is pretty happy about Drew McIntyre winning the title. But guys, let us know what you think of SmackDown overall, and of course the big news that Drew McIntyre is WWE champion once again. Kieran says also Gunther is going to be pre-recorded at SmackDown when he looks it up again. So yeah, a lot of things being advertised for this European tour. I mean, Lucas, it's again, you mentioned it earlier on, they really are going big with these international shows, and we benefit. Look, the Americans may, take a hit when it comes to spoilers and timings and stuff like that, but at the same time, I think what they get turned is a very, very kind of exciting product. A lot of the times they do go internationally. It's a very fresh feel to it.
Yeah, and look, to American fans watching, I'm sorry that you have to sometimes watch these times, but come on, we had to watch pay-per-view. We had to have the skill as British kids of having to watch the pay-per-view on a Sunday night at 1 a.m. and still go to school the next morning.
Yep.
And you had 2 options. You either stayed up live and you watched it, and so you were tired for the entirety of the next day, or you didn't watch it. And so then, fair enough, we didn't have the internet growing up as much as we do now. But, we had to go the whole day without loudmouth,
Yeah,
spoilers.
yeah, Lucas, don't make it sound too old. We definitely had the internet, but it's not quite what it is today. You're right, but yeah,
it wasn't on our phones.
I remember being on the I might have said this on the pod before. I remember being on the bus to school, and it was the night after Austin had returned, and I remember someone saying, "Oh, yeah, it was weird. Like there was singing on his theme song," and I was like, "What?" And it's when he had the Disturbed song, which I ended up loving. But at the time, I was like, "What do you mean?" Like little things like that. Obviously, that wasn't the biggest story coming out of that show. The biggest spoiler that you could have got. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's just again that kind of example. You either stayed up late and you got in trouble by your parents or your teachers, or you went to school and you risked it. And as you say, you had to hope the class is loudmouthed it. Because this isn't a time as well. We're talking about a time when WWF was like massive. It was the cool thing for kids to watch in school. So it weren't like, especially I think 10, 15 years ago, where a lot of people with the PG era, I think you might have got away with it a little bit more. But back then it was everybody, pretty much at least, was a wrestling fan. So
also back then, pay-per-view meant pay-per-view. You had to pay to watch it once, and that was it. So and sometimes there'd be repeats. But remember, there were repeats at times. I remember at one point
they were. Yeah, they used to come on Sky Box Office. They used to.
I think it was
we're sounding very old now, Lucas. Maybe we should bring it back to SmackDown before people tune out and go, these old guys.
We lost everyone on dirty, I think, now.
That's it. Kieran says, if it's like 1 a.m. for me, I would just stay up all night. If it ended at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. on a school night. So Kieran's one of us, Lucas, understood the struggle that we went through growing up as wrestling fans.
So I don't feel sorry for you Americans. We had to do years of that. Absolutely. I mean, we had to not just that. We still obviously Raw being on like Friday night at one point. Monday Night Raw was aired on Friday night over here for the longest time.
That was another one. I think I've seen it on the pod, but I went on WWF.com, it must have been at the time, and I saw that Deborah had become The Rock's manager for the week while he was feuding with Austin. And I remember being like, wait, what? And I think I was like, wait, what's happened? I was so confused. But yeah, it felt like you were looking into this other world. But hey, that's the Attitude Era for you. Let's get back into the modern era.
Someone mentioned, Matt Cardona was mentioned there. So after the Kid Dawson kind of said, because that's what I was about to mention. Sorry, before we got distracted. Matt Cardona. Now look, I liked Zack Ryder. Like I thought he was solid. Like I thought that he was a good company guy, and he got over organically and did a good job. But this was 15 years ago, and I don't know whether I can jump straight to buying him as a main event guy just because he did a few death matches and now has come back with a new name. Like I don't know. I just think. As much as there's lots of people when he returned, kind of saying, "Oh, he's a future world champion." It's like,
I find that really surprising, and it's no dig. I mean, I was a massive Zack Ryder fan. I remember going in the club and doing the LI. I was like, literally, I was saying woo woo woo, all the time to my mate. This is before it became really big. I was like really early adopter, of Z True Long Island Story. Watched the spin-off show with Chia Petta. I loved all that stuff. And when he won the tag titles, when he won the IC title, the WrestleMania events and stuff like that, big fan of that as well. Love what he's done on the indies. Myself and Rob did a video on this very channel where we talked about him coming back, whether or not he became Zack Ryder again or Matt Cardona if he come back to WWE, or whether or not be a hybrid. It felt like it was going to be a hybrid, but now it looks like it's going to be Matt Cardona, and I'm not sure. Although I think he's done great outside of WWE, I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
because it's kind of confusing, and I think and look, loads of Isaac Yankem was Kane. Do you know what I mean? You can change character, but at the same time, I feel like it kind of disrespects what he did to Zack Ryder, and I don't really like that. Outside, you can do that. You can be like, Zack Ryder's dead. I'm Matt Cardona now, and I understand why he's reinvented himself. He wants to be Matt Cardona. I would have preferred him to come back as Zack Ryder, but been Matt Cardona, if that makes sense. And then that way, you're not having this confusion about his history. Like his massive history, titles in WWE, US champion, things like that, as Zack Ryder. I just don't see it going the way others do, and that's not because I'm not a fan of him. I think he deserves a lot of respect. What he did then was pioneering. What he's done on the Indies is pioneering, and this is why he's back in WWE in the first place. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm just not sure he's going to get that position. And I think if he does leave again, and I hate to be looking at the negatives, but like Matt Cardona was your thing, and this, do you know what I mean? Now you've given it to them, and again, I don't want to be too pessimistic, but
as Matt Cardona at one point, didn't they? I think. So I think he kind of did shoot himself in the foot because he already returned as Zack Ryder, which then obviously annoyed the fan base that got behind Matt Cardona. But now he kind of salvaged that a little bit by saying, well, I kind of had to for that tournament because it linked to John Cena. But then surely like there'll be other stuff that'll come up. Like obviously he's a former US champion, former IC champion, former tag team champion. Like, when he goes for those things, they're gonna have to mention Zack Ryder. Like it's
what's
really...
what's the most comparable thing? Again, I use Isaac Yankem and Kane. That's massively. They're supposed to be different people, right? Because of the mask and whatever else. But all right, so you've got. I mean, they'll never mention on WWE programming me, Mark Calloway, right? But they'll mention it on documentaries, right?
Yeah.
So what's the closest where we've got someone in the same company even where they've been two different characters, but it's clearly the same person? I mean, Jimmy Wang Yang was great at that. He did a lot of interesting character work.
Lots of mid-carders. One that was about to come to my mind, because one area where I think they do this weirdly, or maybe not weirdly, but they is when it comes to Hall of Fame. So, for example, The Godfather is in the Hall of Fame, but obviously Charles Wright, he wrestled as Papa Shango. He wrestled as, was it Khan Mustafa? Yeah, on the fighting champion thing. So, like, but so when you're doing that, like, are you saying that The Godfather is in the Hall of Fame, but Papa Shango is not in the Hall of Fame? Or is Charles Wright in the Hall of Fame?
I think, because so Papa Shango was a massive character, don't get me wrong, but so was The Godfather, and they were supposed to be different, and the face paint helps differentiate them, right? Yeah. But then you've got, like, I don't know, like, it just feels, I'm trying to think, there's another example that just came to my head that's gone now, but like, yeah, they're never going to say Godfather was Papa Shango. They do it these days when he comes back as a nostalgia thing, but when he had the Ho Train, they were never going to say, this guy used to be Papa Shango. But I think his titles that made the difference as well. Like, Papa Shango had a brief period in WWE history when you really think about it, when you take a step back, he was there probably as Godfather for way longer. Whereas Zack Ryder was there for so long as Zack Ryder.
He was a mainstay.
As a champion. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a mainstay, of the company for many years, and that was his name. It's a difficult one because the other rule I guess you could, I could use is, do you say if they've got like a real name, if they've like done a real name, character name thing, can that be the way around it? But I'm also like, no, because let's take a good one that could happen. If Edge comes back to WWE, is he Adam Copeland or Edge?
Oh, he's Edge for sure.
Yeah, but then, like, he's been Adam Copeland.
You know what? And it's a different company. It's a different company. And this is probably the closest I can think of, is Razor Ramon Scott Hall. Now, Razor Ramon is the kind of Scarface type character. Scott Hall is a little bit like that, but then becomes more like himself. The man who plays the character. Zack Ryder, because characters change. Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona used to like the Bud Light Limes and doing all the woo-woo-woos and all this kind of stuff and spiking his hair. And now he's growing up and he's a different guy and he's more serious now. Like, that can be the case. But the changing in the name, I just feel like...
That's what it is then. I think it's the fact that I just think Matt Cardona could just be Zack Ryder, but just grown up. There's no reason for him to be Matt Cardona.
Like... the benefit for him, the perk was to separate it. Yeah.
Through Zack Ryder, going from, like you say, like that youngster who, did all those kind of things, to now being more mature and looking back. Here's one. Here's one we can compare it to. Tensai. Similar to Tensai. Because look.
Yeah.
You're laughing. But look, Albert A-Train had a very big career. But what we're going at is like the known career before.
That's a good example as well, because Albert is A-Train to me, right? They are the same character, but tweaked, right? Because he didn't go away. But then Tensai, at first, was supposed to be A-Train, who went to become Giant Bernard and was amazing in Japan, coming back as Giant Bernard, but with a new name, a Japanese-inspired theme. But then he became a completely different character, and he wasn't A-Train Albert.
Yeah,
or Giant
but what was a common thing that happened? People couldn't see the fact that it was A-Train. The fan base refused to acknowledge that it was Tensai, and just saw him as A-Train. Because that's the character that we grew up with. We grew up with A-Train Albert. Because again, he won championships. He won championships. He was part of WrestleManias. He was part of big shows and big events. And so I think that it's very early on to say. And maybe in 2 months, 3 months down the line, it may not matter. It may think a bit different. But I do think that at the moment, it just doesn't feel as big as they kind of want it to feel. And I guess we'll see next week, obviously, the reception he gets, obviously, in London. And obviously, the result of his match, that will say a lot as well. Like, if he is successful or if he's not successful. I'm kind of predicting that he won't be successful next week. And we shall kind of go from there. But for me, I just still think that, like, a lot of the stuff he's done as well, I don't know if it translates to the fan base that WWE has in that sort of way. Like, I think he's done stuff like death matches and done like indie stuff, which just isn't really going to appeal to your average WWE wrestling fan. It's a whole different kind of breed of people that watch that. And no with disrespect with people who do, but it's a bit like how no one's popping for anything like Pete Dunne's done, like, because of Progress. Outside of the people who watch Progress, like, it's just such a minute kind of thing, isn't it? So let's say the gap between the indies, and even if you've been on like TNA, it's owned by WWE, isn't it? So even that wouldn't help. But
allegedly, allegedly not is what we should. Yeah, it's very confusing. But yeah, I mean, to wrap up the Cardona Ryder thing, just want to say, very happy for the man. Happy to see him back. Hope it works out. And again, always been a big fan, so let's hope it does work out for him. But let's get to a few more of these comments, Lucas, and we'll start wrapping up in a moment, because we'll kind of finalise some of the other heavy stories coming out of SmackDown, of course, before touching on again the WWE Championship change. Talking about the old days again, Aiden said he would watch in the morning, and he doesn't feel sorry for America there as well. Let's have a look at this comment here from brother BKL Sports Entertainment Show. Says, what's happening, fellas, in Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling? What are your thoughts on the main event match? I do think Jacob Fatu did the right choice to attack Cody Rhodes until Drew as new champion. So thanks for joining us, buddy. Appreciate your comment. We went kind of heavily into the main event when we opened the show, but we will touch on it a little bit more detail very soon. But just a little recap. Myself and Lucas very happy what WWE have done here. Interesting to use Jacob Fatu, which is not a factor we haven't really touched on. So I'm glad you brought that up, buddy, because we'll get into that in a bit more detail very, very soon. Great to see the comments. Drew Galloway is another example that Aiden said. Someone going outside, using that name. If he come back to Drew Galloway, at least it was Drew, but he didn't. Did he come back as Drew McIntyre? Also, brother BKL says between Jimmy Wang Yang was quite alright, but I really do like Jimmy Wang as a name for New Japan. He was a great wrestler. I saw them clip from the other day, I think against maybe AJ Styles. When he was part of the Flying Elvises in TNA. He was so good at character work as well. Finally win, Drew, says Ronald as well. I mean, I'm not sure if they could do this on his own name. WWE feels like Cope means who the hell is that? Yeah, Cope's not gone down too well with a lot of the fans, but that's what he's been called for years apparently by his mates as well. This is a great example here. Kaylee Ray and Alba Fire. I mean, she was Kaylee Ray but she is the same. To me, she's the same character. She just changed her name. So
I think name changes upwards are fine, though. I think obviously because they renamed Walter to Gunther when he went to the main roster.
Yeah, but he was in NXT. So whereas Zack Ryder, like, in the future, could have gone in the Hall of Fame as Zack Ryder without coming back. So
easily they put people in for less. I mean, be honest, come on.
Not to downplay what Zack Ryder's done, but the point is, he would deserve it. Consider it. But yeah, some great examples here as well. Aiden says Piper Niven, whatever happened to her name, like Dewdrop. Again, that was a change of character, but as Lucas said, she wasn't multiple time champion in WWE at that point. Indie wrestling's quite alright, fellas. Now, look, we're a big fan of indie wrestling. Lucas himself runs an indie wrestling promotion, so that's not what we're getting at there with that. But I think it's just important to remember that
I'm just
WWE,
saying that the fan bases don't correlate between the two. I think as much as people say Mark Cardona's a king of the indies, it doesn't, for me, translate to people who pay for a WWE ticket to actually care about. You know, it's a struggle they've had with many people before. Like, mainly it comes with the Japanese wrestlers, Japanese stars. People go on about, oh, they've done this amazing stuff in, like, Japan. But that fan base doesn't watch WWE. And vice versa, or there's not as many in that fan base. I
mean, even AEW and WWE as well, there are things where it doesn't cross over as well.
Look at the reception of, you know, the Shinsuke and AJ matches, you know, from a few years ago. Generally, some of the worst matches on a main event, like they've ever, like genuinely.
Yeah, but they won at Wrestle Kingdom. Fantastic. So crazy.
But when it came to WWE, they just couldn't. The style of WWE mixing obviously what they wanted didn't work, you know, and that audience base just didn't work for it, you know. And obviously both men have had better matches, and that would maybe link me in saying this. Shinsuke Nakamura, he had a very good match tonight on SmackDown. Maybe a bit too long. I'm with you, Scott, with that. I thought that was a little bit too long, but I do think it was done purposefully. Because obviously Shinsuke Nakamura made kind of headlines this week by not wrestling, which is something which doesn't happen too often. But obviously Nakamura, he was heavily talked about to be the final opponent for Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom, but that obviously went to Kazuchika Okada. And there seems to be a lot of politicking that kind of went on kind of around the things. You know, at one point with Shinsuke asking for his release from WWE, with Tony Khan not being happy about certain bits and pieces, and then obviously
I didn't know that about Shinsuke. I hadn't heard that.
Panzo?
I hadn't heard that about Shinsuke apparently asking for his release.
Yeah, so essentially there was a big push. So I've read the full story earlier. So the big push came from New Japan last January, in fact, when they were informed, obviously, Tanahashi's retirement tour, and they reached out to people in WWE to try and get the match to happen at Wrestle Kingdom. At some point that year, WWE were open to doing it, but then Tony Khan made advancements to New Japan, basically said that he would potentially look to sever the relationship that AEW has with New Japan if they reached out to Shinsuke. Shinsuke then decided that he asked for his release, he would then obviously be a free agent and would be able to wrestle as he pleases for any company. And that release was denied in July, and this obviously led to Shinsuke being on television for a long period of time as well,
right.
Around this time. And then he returned in October. It's also believed that Shinsuke's original contract was extended at some point last year. He has signed a 3-year extension in April 2022. That should have obviously expired in April 2025. It did not obviously run out then. They must have added some injury time or something like that. And it does appear that he has signed a new contract with the WWE, allegedly as recently as that October, you know, when he returned in Perth. So yeah, a lot has gone on. Essentially, a lot has gone on over the past kind of year with Shinsuke Nakamura, and also that match didn't happen at Wrestle Kingdom, and it's believed to be because of Tony Khan kind of inserting himself in it. And
I didn't know that.
Talks broke down from the WWE side as well, but it's not known whether Shinsuke kind of broke the talks down or WWE did, but we probably know it was it was the latter.
Yeah, because I saw him some quotes the other day about him, something along the lines of like, you know, regretting it, but he had commitments and it's just not the way it worked out. And I just thought like, what do you mean? You're meant to be on SmackDown? Like what? I didn't, and obviously he was, but
yeah,
I didn't get what they meant, those quotes, but that kind of makes a bit more sense now. Like it's given a kind of a new kind of shed a bit of light on that. But yeah, a real shame. I mean, it would have been talk about great Wrestle Kingdom matches from the past. They had a fantastic one that's together for the what it's gone now, but the old Intercontinental Championship in New Japan. But yeah, what a shame. But yeah, on SmackDown, as you say, he comes out for the US Open Challenge. And again, I thought it was enjoyable, but yeah, it seems like we're in agreement. Probably went on a little bit too long. Just
but
before,
I think the length issue was because they wanted to kind of spotlight Shinsuke and give him a good showing in the face. Obviously, what's happened. That's my theory on it. Anyway, I think that kind of makes sense.
probably to make Carmelo just look like a sympathetic babyface as well. I thought he's selling, by the way, on that corkscrew, whatever
Yeah,
it's called, dragon screw knee thing, and then them working on that was fantastic. And that's a good thing about Nakamura. He's such a pro; he could easily slip into acting a bit like a heel. Do you know what I mean? To take advantage. But yeah, it was a great showing from both wrestlers. I just felt like it went on a little bit long, but yeah, we both seemingly got theories as to why that might have been. Before this as well, I do want to say it's a bit of a shocker. A lot of people online seem to really kind of had a heart in their stomach type moment here before they realised what had happened. But Nathan Frazier was attacked by not Axiom. He was attacked by Johnny Gargano dressed as Axiom, which I thought
did
was
get me actually.
really
Did get
cool.
me for like a split second.
Did it? Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that had done it for me is I just saw obviously Johnny Gargano's hand, and obviously Axiom being Spanish, he's naturally obviously darker in tone. So I was like, oh, that's not. It just took me out for a split second. I was like, that's not Axiom, is it? But it really convinced me a little bit. And the minute he kind of did that punch, like, oh no, it's not him. But I thought it was very well done.
To fully understand what happened because the episode quick as well.
Yeah.
I didn't. If I put any criticism on it, I felt Nathan Frazier's maybe his acting was a little bit wooden. The way he was stood, that typical thing of that's down like this because the camera's got to see it, and I have sympathy for that for performers. Don't get me wrong. It felt like it was a little bit too but the shock of it, I think, was really well executed and quite
also,
clever. I think something they're going to play.
What's interesting here is obviously they're continuing a feud which started as a tag team feud. And again, the other thing coming up this week has been obviously Tommaso Ciampa potentially leaving at the end of his contract, which is meant to expire very soon. So obviously, but this segment today felt like they're setting up for another tag team match, which I guess they could do as the kind of final tag match potentially. I guess
way to go out if he does leave, which for me it'd be a shame. I am a big Ciampa and DIY fan. I think a good way to go out would be putting over another tag team, So I think many people, myself included, are shocked how well it's gelled for Fraxiom and how long they've stayed together. So look, if they're going forward with it, then why not give them that blessing from a very well established team in DIY? So it might be where we're going with this one. But yeah, nice little shocker there. On SmackDown as well. Again, a show where we saw quite a few shocks. That leads us towards the main event again, Lucas. Again, we've touched on the initial shock and surprise or the fact that they pulled the trigger with Drew McIntyre, and again, we are both over the moon, it would seem, about that result and how it freshens things up. And as much as I love Cody, but just even that freshening things up for Cody. Again, we're very happy about the fact it's happened on a SmackDown. It's happened on a purely quality match on a SmackDown overseas, not even live in the States, unless you have your means to watch it live. So there are so many factors to this. Again, we've touched on many of those already, but one I did want to mention again that came up from a comment there from brother BKL Sports Entertainment Show is the reemergence of Jacob Fatu. And I mentioned it at the top of the show, Lucas. There were rumors flying around that he was backstage. Many people were getting themselves ready for Drew being cost the title by Jacob. Now, Jacob comes in as Drew's about to come out the door. Looks cool, but I was dreading it as much as I like Jacob. I was thinking, no, don't cost Drew. And he doesn't. He actually inadvertently helps Drew become WWE champion, which I think plays into Drew's kind of slimy heel tactics as well. And it's because for some reason he gets a little hot-headed and also goes after Cody Rhodes. Now, I don't think it's because Cody's going to be the one that turns out to have attacked him, because we've got to remember that there was a feud, which is why it's weird. There was a feud between Drew and Jacob. Jacob obviously legitimately has to take some time out, so they basically have the old surprise. Who is it? Blah blah blah. We can make this a surprise in the future. This kind of looked like they don't really know what they want to do as far as the surprise goes. But on commentary, they played into it a little bit like it could have been Drew, but then they added into the confusion of going for Cody. Was the Cody thing just a means to the ends, and they wanted to just do two stories at once, bring him back, but also give Drew the title? And if that's the case, should they have separated these two incidents?
I think obviously they needed a way for Cody to not lose cleanly, is what they would have felt in their books.
Yeah.
So this was it. I must touch upon a few things in the match, though, that were nice homages to things that have happened previously in Drew and Cody's feud, and maybe just in Drew McIntyre's and the character arc in general. So, obviously, Fall 1, that ended with the low blow, which, as we know, that's been a big thing for Drew McIntyre over the past kind of few feuds that he's had. So, the low blow and the Claymore kick. Fall 2 was Fall Count Anywhere, and we saw the nice homage to Jimmy Snuka with the splash of the kind of barrier area, fan area, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then we also had finally match the Fall 3, even though, yes, Jacob Fatu was involved in this, the actual finish was Drew McIntyre went through the door. And if you recall, the reason why apparently a certain Jesse Ventura is not on commentary anymore is because he called Damian Priest a coward for going out of the door.
Worked in their favour, man. They got a heel to do it.
Yeah, it makes sense. This perfectly makes sense. I kind of just wish that the third fall was escape the cage only. I think that would have made a much more kind of exciting kind of match for that third fall. I always felt that the pins and submissions in the steel cage match just slow it down and just make the cage not mean enough. I think in the old days, something the cage match was good for was the cage honestly felt like the third man in the ring. It felt like it was really important. But now, when you get the pins and submissions, it feels a bit like the cage is like secondary. But that's why I was happy the finish was an escape from the cage, because it obviously already had a pinfall in the Fall 1, had a pinfall in Fall 2, albeit outside the ring, which is great. But Fall 3, I think it should have been, and it was obviously ended up being an escape through the door. So escaping the cage. I think it's such a good visual as well, like escaping the cage. It's such a good visual. But yeah, Jacob Fatu, I think this is an interesting one because it felt very much like they had always kind of thought it was Drew, but I think we're conditioned to always expect a swerve. But remember, they had done this previously with the women, hadn't they? Obviously, a year prior with the whole Naomi, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair stuff, which again still is unfinished, really, because Naomi's obviously gone off on maternity leave. Bianca's still injured. Still injured, and Jade Cargill has obviously turned herself. So I just thought that might be an arc that we never go back to. But yeah, that did already happen when they did the whole swerve of people thinking of Bianca and it was Naomi, and vice versa, whatever. So I think this might be a bit more straightforward. Of it was Drew. Drew would admit that it was him, and I guess he can tell the story arc of like, I wanted that title to myself, kind of thing. It took me longer to get it, and you really helped me to get it. But all of a sudden, the SmackDown main event scene is looking pretty impressive after months of it not.
Yeah. I mean, it just shows you what a little bit of twisting and turning can do, right? Freshen things up, because again, we got this tournament with 8 people. Then it's going to go to Saturday night's main event. Then it's going to take us to the Rumble. We're in WrestleMania season, and on top of that, you got the guy that's just lost the title, the guy that's just won the title, and the guy that's just returned, who had a rocket strapped to him just before he got injured anyway, in Jacob Fatu. So yeah, like you say, a really interesting time to be watching SmackDown, which is a great thing to be saying. I completely agree with you with the way the falls were done as well. I think it's interesting when it comes to cages. I think it depends on maybe how old you are or when you watch wrestling, because I'm the same as you. I grew up feeling like the cage, the visual, like it felt like it mattered. If you pinned in the middle of the ring, it used to bug me. I was like, why are we in a cage? Like, especially when they didn't use, when they moved away from some of the hardcore aspects. If you weren't going to do that, at least use it as a prop a little bit more as far as the finish goes. And they didn't. But then if you go to like Jesse Ventura's kind of view of it, it was like escaping the cage is a bad thing. Like that's the coward's way. So it's really interesting how people view the cage match. But I personally, again, align with you. And I like the way they used it here, the visual. I also really like the order of who won what fall. Obviously, it's always going to get to a third. We know how these things go, but I liked who won which fall as far as the stipulation goes. That the clean babyface had to do it dirty and do all the hardcore stuff, and he won the falls count anyway. And he did some pretty heelish tactics to do it, which I think really helps Cody's case because fans are starting to turn against him in a certain way. Then you've got the bad guy. Yes, he did it in a bad guy way, but he won the clean the cleaner match with a dirty finish. I thought it was fantastic, as you say, to use the low blow in there as well. So very, very good booking, in my opinion, from WWE there. Going back to Jacob Fatu, I think you're right. I think it doesn't all have to be a mystery, right? They don't all have to be a swerve. So I think it probably just makes sense to make it Drew. And as you say, it probably was just a way to kind of make, things a little bit messy for Cody to kind of get him out of it as well. But look, where Cody goes from here is interesting. As you say, SmackDown title picture is crazy now. We've also got Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns lurking in the background as a possible WrestleMania match as well. Maybe involves the title, maybe doesn't. And we've got the Royal Rumble winners to kind of factor into this as well, Lucas. So it's a crazy...
And you've still got Obafemi to debut.
And still Obafemi, who could become world champion at WrestleMania as well. Look, there's so much to get into. And again, a lot of this will twist and turn by the time we get to the Royal Rumble. And as we mentioned earlier on, we're going to try our best to cover the Royal Rumble in depth, as we always do on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel as well. And also the rest of this European tour. Again, big changes in my life at the moment with the birth of my son. But I'm trying my best, guys, to keep up to date with WWE and the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. So again, appreciate the congratulations earlier on, and appreciate your patience when we haven't been as active as we'd like to be the past few weeks as well. But again, I hope you understand why. We're going to try our best over the next few weeks to cover more of this European tour. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already. Again, it's always great to see those familiar faces and names popping up in the chat, but it's always equally just as great to see some brand new ones. And again, we've had a few of you popping in tonight. Alex, brother BKL, Sports Entertainment Show. Great to see you guys on board. See Kieran and Aiden popping in, as they always tend to do as well. So we really do appreciate that. Before we wrap up, let's get to some more of these comments from the guys in the chat as well. Aiden says he loves indie wrestling, loves watching IPW highlights. Of course you love the Scottish promotion, don't you, Aiden?
Watch some DKW on YouTube as well.
DKW, that's where it's at. I think it was Cody attacked him, Aiden. Imagine that. A feud.
Everyone wants to swerve, isn't it? Everyone wants to swerve.
I mean, it would be great. It would be great, wouldn't it? A little bit of Scottish magic, says Aiden as well. Also says the ref didn't see it, so it doesn't matter. Of course, talking about Drew McIntyre's cheeky little first fall shenanigans there. But that does bring us to the end of the show, guys. Really, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're watching live or on demand. Again, if you're watching on demand, just like we do with the live viewers, we appreciate your comments and your contributions as well. So please drop those in the comment box. That does do it for this one. Just want to hand it over to Lucas to plug his own channel. He's getting more content over on his own channel. So Lucas, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, so please come and see me on the Lucas Shatlin show. It's a mix of stuff at the moment. We're doing I'm doing kind of weekly content on bits and pieces, as well as a lot of shorts. I'm finding a lot of people are liking the shorts, so they will keep up, including some instant reactions to the stuff. Obviously, like I said, Scott's got a very busy life now. In terms of obviously looking after the little one, but obviously over on that channel I will be doing with kind of like instant reactions and doing sort of short form content that kind of keeps people kind of going until we can come on and do these kind of bigger ones. As you can imagine, these take a lot of time, particularly when we do ones around PLEs, because they can be sometimes up there in the kind of James Cameron, Christopher Nolan
yeah,
type lengths.
The same quality as well, I might add.
Yeah,
maybe not the same budget.
Same budget. Yeah. What, 400 million for our podcast? Huh?
Yeah, I wish. 400 could be nice, mate.
Come and check me out. Doing all sorts of different bits and pieces, not just wrestling, some other stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Aiden just asked for clarification on DKW. Yes, the DKW Academy. Lucas, we're going to let you step in and explain a little bit more there if you'd like to.
Yeah, obviously we're on YouTube and on Instagram, DKW_shows. Check us out. We're Academy based in Essex, been going for over 25 years, and obviously run by myself. I wrestle on there as well. So yeah, please check out some of the content. I think we've got some new stuff going up today.
Brilliant, yeah, and we've touched on it a few times on this channel, but some pretty impressive alumni from that school as well. So it's definitely where it's at in the south of England, and we've got an interview on this channel chatting to Pretty Deadly about that very fact. So hopefully that kind of gets you excited, and you can go and check that out as well. Again, thank you to everyone tuned in, and for those that have commented as well. Lucas, thank you to you, buddy, for joining me again. It feels good to be back talking pro wrestling, and again, hopefully we'll be able to do it very, very soon with other shows on this European tour, but we'll definitely be back for content surrounding the Royal Rumble. Lucas, thanks so much, and everyone else, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Cheers.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.